Yeniden merhabalar. Şimdi sosyal mesafe kavramının hayatımıza girmesiyle birlikte birçok işimizi mümkün olduğunca uzaktan ve temas etmeden yapmaya çalışıyoruz. Biraz önce de bahsettim, ürün testleri pazarlamacılar için çok kritik araştırmalar. Şimdi bu konuda yeni bir bilgi var. Temassız ürün testleri. Ipsos'un ürün testleri alanındaki global lideri Nikolay Reynolds bize bugün bu konudan bahsedecek. Hello, Nikolay.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes.
I just need to be able to share my screen. Then we can start.
Okay. Before that, I would like to thank you for your participation. Social distancing is a new phenomenon that we met just because of this COVID-19 pandemic. So we must be much more careful when contacting each other. And if it is possible, we must avoid from contacting, of course. That's why your topic is extremely interesting. Contactless product tests. So
Yes.
I would like to hear you, and the stage is yours.
Okay, thanks a lot also for the introduction. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be able to speak virtually, at least. I would like to see all of you, but due to COVID-19, we have to go into contactless presentation. And this is also kind of the topic of today. It's about contactless product testing and adapting the product itself, as well as product testing to new realities. And if we think about it, when we look at a product, the product is really the core of any marketing mix model and really the physical manifestation of a brand promise. What I mean is you can create, of course, through marketing initiatives and create awareness, a good trial. But if you look at repeat, that's the true essence of a product. A product needs to create the repeat, which is important to our sustainable business. And we know that businesses are more successful if they really continue to develop and adapt their products. We've seen many case studies, and I've also done our own research. And that applies to the whole product life cycle, which you see on the left side from the exploration phase, when we're thinking about which ideas could create a product, over to cost savings and rationalization when it's about extending the product life cycle. And this is an example in COVID-19, supply chains are being impacted. Your suppliers may not be able to they cannot produce specific ingredients, so you may need to think about different ingredients, or there may be financial constraints required to improve products in a cost-efficient way. And also in the exploration, it's about, in the COVID-19, about keep generating new products. And just recently, we've done an interesting study in the UK where we did a survey examining which features and claims would be relevant in the health area and the sustainability area. And we can see, for instance, provide immunity boost was quite relevant for consumers. So that could be, kind of leading to new products, given that consumers are having different needs during the COVID-19 situation. The study is free for download. It's quite interesting. It covers, of course, the UK, but there may be some interesting insights in terms of other claims and efficiencies related attributes. And looking at the way, excuse me, you heard a cat in the background. My cats are fighting, so apologies for that. So if we're thinking about adapting product development research, there are three things to keep in mind. First of all, think contactless. As we're doing this webinar, we need to make sure that we're making sure that all contacts are reduced, and of course health efficiencies are put in place. As well as think about leveraging technology. We're living now in a real digital world, and there are options to create virtual exercise, as we're doing today with the webinar. And the third area is also to think about using different data sources. Using about, for instance, e-commerce ratings reviews to better understand how products can be further optimized, or understanding how the competitive environment is changing to the COVID-19 situation. If you're thinking about benchmarking, for instance, in today's world, consumers may be constrained financially, and they will maybe select private labels over your own products. And they may also be sticking to the private labels after the crisis happens. So it's good to know, you know, what the competitive environment is providing, and that's why it's good to use different data sources which allow contactless research. This is just some examples from other countries. You can see, for instance, in China, our team produced a video showing how products are being sanitized and optimized and making sure that they're safe. This video was shown using an app to the consumers to make sure that they, you know, they can count that we're making and creating precautions for contactless and safety measures during product testing. In Thailand, there's an example. You can see, for instance, street recruitment, keeping the distance, having face masks on. You can see group discussion at the top where the 6 feet measures are being put in place, that they're not too close to each other while discussing the product performance. And we even got so far that we created our own sanitizers for data collection, but also to interview consumers to make sure everything is safe. And you can see also heat thermometer checking, for instance, in central location testing, where the consumers have higher temperature. So you need to, if you think about product testing and product development, you need to really think about contactless and also keeping the safety measures in place. And as Roland Lloyd already told and spoke about, is about online use tests and the online data collection. This is a good time to think about online data collection, given that, you know, we can ship and place the products to consumers. And we've done an interesting study that if you go from offline to online, the business decisions are still the same, showing a high correlation between top box purchase intent and other metrics which you can see between on and offline. So this, you know, this is nothing groundbreaking going online, but it's, you know, worthwhile considering, particularly in today's world. If we're thinking about, you know, leveraging technology, and if you're thinking about classic, you know, in-person product testing labs, now I don't mean, you know, typical central location testing, because central location testing, very often you have, you know, isolated small chambers where consumers are testing, and laboratory testing where you have consumers testing the product and providing immediate responses which are being analyzed rapidly. In COVID-19 situation, this is not that possible. So we need to leverage technology, and one way is to create virtual labs where consumers participate and test the products. And the good thing here is, you know, using webcams, of course, with the consent of the consumers, you still have control whether they're testing the products in the right way. In addition, you can also, you know, have a moderator show how the products are being tested, so you have even better control and making sure that it's quite standardized, because laboratory testing is, of course, standardization very necessary. And the great benefit here is, of course, that, you know, that different stakeholders can participate. I mean, I'm from Germany, and I can easily participate in this webinar, which is nice. So there are possibilities, you know, to get all the stakeholders together. Not only the R&D department, the marketing department can join, communications can join, and really discuss how the product can be improved. So how does this work? This is kind of a case study which we've done. You know, we've recruited consumers online, captured a few metrics, we shipped the products to the consumers, had a specific date where they attended virtually, they were exposed to the product, and we just captured very few metrics, which was related to overall liking, purchase intent, and then just about right ratings. We analyzed the just about right ratings in the sense of a penalty analysis, which provides strengths and weaknesses of the product. And, you know, this fed into the qual group discussion to still further optimize the product and go in depth why some consumers didn't appreciate the product. This, you know, just one example, just in also providing you food for thought to test contactless in a specific way, which allows still product optimization even during these times we live in now. The other area is considering different data sources, and here's just an example using e-commerce rating reviews. There are e-commerce websites which allow consumers to rate and review products. I mean, you know it yourself, when you purchase or order food, you can rate and review. And Well, what can be done here is that through artificial intelligence and machine learning, specific topics can be identified within the review data of consumers. They can then be categorized in topics, and this categorization allows the possibility to understand which themes, which topics are discussed among consumers. And you can even do that throughout the time, which is quite efficient. Particularly if you think about COVID-19 situation, and we hopefully will be out of this crisis very soon, you can think about how the appreciation of products and the dimensions change over time. So that will allow you to better optimize the products and also do competitive assessment. And this is just one example. The rating and reviews, so when consumers provide star rating and provide the review data, and the review data is being analyzed, you can also think about doing driver analysis to see what is influencing, which themes are influencing and impacting the star rating. You can do that for different brands and allow to better understand what needs to be optimized. And here I'd like to highlight particularly the negative themes of products that are being assessed in e-com platforms, where you can see what is really problematic on the product, what needs to be further optimized, what needs to be changed. And you can also, of course, track these themes over time. There are, of course, a lot of fake references in the e-commerce platform, so you need to be aware of that. You need to identify these. You need to also consider sarcasm, idioms. There are possibilities of doing this kind of analysis using probabilistic algorithms and identifying with the near neighbor index what is an idiom and what is a sarcasm. I'm getting a little bit technical here, but I just wanted to show that it's really indeed possible to identify such statements using artificial intelligence. But of course, also human intelligence is important to better assess what consumers are thinking, what are they meaning, and also to investigate a little bit more in terms of those profiles who provide fake reviews and all that. And this is I just wanted to give you kind of a short examination of what is possible in the contactless product testing. I just want to express really now is the time to plant the future seeds for product success. There's an interesting case study which shows that those businesses who have further optimized and developed a product during a crisis were really more successful during the stages after the crisis. Why? Because they really had a head start in front of the competition. The products were more adapted to the new realities. But what we need to be really sure is that we're putting precautions into place, that consumers are safe, that you are safe, our employees are safe, and that's why the contactless is really important. This is an example when products are being shipped and the consumer comes home and can pick them up, or pick them up at a specific spot. And we need to make sure, of course, that all the products are sanitized. And so if we're thinking about contactless, think about hygiene measures, social distancing need to be put in place, use of technology through virtual meetings as we're doing now, and investigate in terms of what can be improved in products. You can think about ethnographic research, getting a better understanding how consumers are used. You can put a control in place by making sure that you have a moderator showing how the products need to be used, and the consumers then, of course, if they provide the consent, test the products in a specific way. And the third of all is using different data which is available in mass today. I mean, we're living in the times of big data, so it's worth thinking about what good information can be used. Not all information is good, so it needs to be relevant, it needs to be timely, the data which you're looking at, and that needs to be, of course, analyzed with the newest technology to make sure we identify, the fake reviews and the fake information, which is, of course, abundant in the internet. So this was kind of just a short and overview of contactless product testing, and I'm happy to follow up to any questions that you're thinking about, and thank you for listening to this short section on contactless product testing.
Thank you so much, Nikolai. That was another piece of the new information indeed. I think it was really clear for everybody. Let's wait a couple of seconds for if someone has a question or not. Because at the moment we haven't received any question from the attendees.
Okay. If you have further questions, I mean, you can please send them via email, and I'm happy to follow up on that. So it's no problem.
Thank you so much. Okay, I guess all is very clear for everyone.
Good.
So that once again, I would like to thank you for your participation. We would like to see you again in our new coming events. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.
Okay. Şimdi yakın zamanda alışveriş merkezleri açılmaya başlandı biliyorsunuz. En özlenen şeylerden biri de hazır giyim alışverişi demiştim. Ve yani yavaş yavaş insanlar hem cadde mağazalarına hem AVM'lere doğru rağbet etmeye, akmaya başladılar. Özellikle hani bunu zaten gözlemliyoruz da bir yandan. Sadece araştırmacı olarak değil, vatandaş olarak, birey olarak da gözlemleyebiliyoruz. Bununla ilgili birçok önlemler açıklanıyor. Hem tekil mağazalar hem de alışveriş merkezleri bu önlemleri aldıklarını duyuruyorlar. Peki bu alışveriş deneyimini güvenle yapabilmek için gerekenleri uygulayabilecek miyiz? Ya da başta uygulasak bile sonrasında devam ettirebilecek miyiz? Bunu nasıl kontrol etmeliyiz? Çünkü özellikle üretici firmanın mağazalarında alınmasını istediği önlemlerin sürekli olarak aynı seviyede uygulanmasından emin olması lazım. Dolayısıyla kontrol tarafı gerçekten çok kritik. Bu anlamda Ipsos'un Channel Performance Service Line'ının global lideri Craig Bradley bizimle olacak ve bu konudan bahsedecek. Hello Craig, are you online? Sanırım Craig henüz bağlanamamış. Bir iki dakika önden gidiyoruz diye düşünüyorum şu anda. Birkaç dakika bekleyelim ve Craig'i yayına alalım. Ondan sonra tekrar devam edelim. Buradan devam ediyor olacağız. Bu seanstan devam ediyor olacağız. Buradan başka bir seansa geçmeyeceğiz. Çünkü bu bizim zaten bugünkü son seansımız. Birkaç dakika içinde Craig'i bağlayacağız. Evet, tekrar ben geri geldim. Craig, can you hear me?
I certainly can, yes.
Okay, it's good to hear your voice.
There we go. Hello.
Hello, hello. So thank you so much, Craig.
From?
The title of your presentation is beginning with I Shop Safe. I think that the safe shopping environment is incredibly important for all retailers and shoppers. So we are looking for to listen to you now. I mean, it's really interesting. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. I'll share my presentation, yes?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, here I go. All right, well, hi everyone. It's nice to be here. It's calling in from the USA. It's 5:30 in the morning or 5:40 in the morning. And in the new world, it seems like we're all working differently, and a lot of people are at home. A lot of people are starting to go back to the offices, but we're really adapting to a new reality. And the new reality is for our consumers, especially as we're beginning to reopen markets. And as Siddhar said, we've started something we call I Shop Safe, which is within Ipsos. We have a large mystery shopping business, as most of you know, and we've begun certifying our shoppers to make sure that when we re-emerge and we start to measure our clients' businesses again, we're doing it in a way that's safe for both our clients, their customers, and also our shoppers. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit today about the new world. And you can see here a lot of photos in front of you that we've taken in the US this last week during our index that we've been running here, and we're launching in some other countries around the world. It's called the Health and Safety Index. And you can see here now that we're seeing people everywhere with masks. We're seeing signs to hold people separately. We're seeing loads of different behaviors around disinfecting and cleaning shopping carts and that kind of thing. But we're also seeing some other things, some inconsistencies. We're seeing people crowding together. We're seeing a lot of retail brands, especially, that say one thing and then do another. So they promise you a safe shopping environment, but then when you go shopping, it's something entirely different altogether. So we're really been an interesting kind of time at the moment as we're watching our markets re-emerge. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. We just recently conducted what we call the Health and Safety Index in the US. We've also done this last week in Canada, and next week we're doing it in the UK, and then we're continuing with other markets around the world. And what we found that the stakes for reopening safely are very high. In other words, if you don't get this right, you may have a lot of your shoppers not coming back to your brand. A lot of your consumers are going to turn away and go to someone else. And we found in the study that we recently did that almost 2/3 of shoppers would stop shopping with a certain brand if they knew that brand wasn't taking health and safety seriously. So 3 in 4 consumers, or 75%, say that they're going to delay returning to shopping once restrictions are lifted. So that's a lot of people who, even though restrictions are lifting and stores are opening, they're still not really wanting to go out there and start shopping the way they normally were. And 61% of them say that the reason for that is they're afraid of getting sick. A further quarter of those people said that they would pay more for products to a brand that was doing a good job with keeping them safe. So interesting times, but it means that reopening safely is very critical. What we do know is that safe business will be good business, and we've seen a lot of news articles where people have gone to the store and they've been worried before they've gone, and then when they get there they find chaos. Particularly we've found this with do-it-yourself or home repair stores in some countries around the world, where people are seeing crowds, they're getting too close to people, no one's wearing masks, they're feeling like there's no way to disinfect their hands, or they're not sure if the carts or the wagons or whatever are actually clean. And so it makes them afraid. And of course, ultimately, if they feel afraid, they won't come back, or they'll go to another brand. So it's important that safe business is being conducted by every brand. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you have a physical business, if you have a delivery or pickup business, it's important that you're safe. So we know that the brands that excel will strengthen customer loyalty. So as I mentioned on the earlier slide, people are prepared to pay 10% more for products at a brand that's doing a good job with health and safety. So our health and safety index, first of all, went out to find out what was important to consumers. So we were asking, what are consumers' new attitudes towards health and safety? What is really important to them in terms of feeling safe when they go back out there? And what can brands do to make consumers feel safe while shopping? So we wanted to know, there's lots of things that a brand can do, but we wanted to know what were the most important things in the minds of a consumer to help them feel safe while they're out there getting back in the world. So then also, what can a brand do to proactively measure health and safety? Because it's one thing to tell your branches or your stores to put in social distancing or to put in cleaning measures or make sure that staff are wearing masks. But it's another thing to make sure those things are actually happening. And when they go out to stores, making sure that it's being done consistently across the brand and across the network. So we looked at 20 different measures and said when we asked consumers, what's most important to you? Is it being reminded when you go around the store that you have to keep distance from other customers? Is it making sure that you can see employees cleaning? Is it making sure that you've got hand sanitizer available everywhere? What about taking a customer's temperature before they're allowed to enter the store? What about managing the number of people that are allowed to enter the store? Because most countries have occupancy rules. You cannot have, a gathering of more than so many people. Maybe a certain restaurant is only allowed to have 50 people inside it. So we went and said, okay, what's most important to you as a consumer when it comes to making you feel safe? What are the things that are the key drivers for you? And we found 5 things. First of all, employees wearing masks was very important. So again, this study was conducted in the US just last week. We're doing this around the world in other places, so we can't guarantee that this would be the same in other countries, but it's very important in North America anyway, for people to be wearing masks when you go to visit with a brand. Secondly, consumers want to see an employee wearing gloves. Third, they want to have hand sanitizer available. So hand sanitizer to wash your hands, but also sanitizing wipes. So something to take out and wipe down the area around you or the cart that you might be pushing or something like that was very important to consumers. And then finally, people wanted to see, again, the most important attributes out of the 20 that we asked. The top 5 were these. And the final one was they wanted to see social distancing markers outside the store to keep people separate so they weren't getting among crowds. What was really interesting in our study as well is consumers felt that they would be doing more personally than the brands would be doing to keep them safe, which they didn't like. They felt that when they went out to go shopping, the brands they were visiting should be doing more work than them to keep them safe. And nobody trusted the brands to do that for them. The key takeaways that we found from this was visible cues and consistency matters. So in other words, if people can go in and see you cleaning, so staff are cleaning regularly, people are wearing masks, there are signs around, there's tape showing you where to stand. Those visible cues really matter to people. They give people the perception that you're taking care of them and that you're looking out for them, and that's really important. The second thing was that employees are the #1 asset. Now, what I mean there is the feedback from consumers was that they wanted to make sure that brands were keeping their employees safe because they didn't want to feel like the staff of a particular brand were being forced to come back to work and also being forced to come back into an unsafe environment. And, I'm sure all of us have seen the news where certain brands around the world have made their employees feel unsafe. They've had overcrowded warehouses, overcrowded delivery centers, and employees have felt unsafe. And what's important to consumers is that they don't feel like they're part of the problem. So I don't want to think that me going out shopping and beginning to re-emerge into the economy is going to put somebody else at risk because they have to go back to their job and their job is unsafe for them. So visible cues are important, being consistent is important, keeping your employees safe is very important. And thirdly, consumers' preferences quickly evolving. So from one day to the next, how we feel as consumers can be very different. So brands have to be ready to pivot and adapt rapidly. So there's a brand here in the US called Costco, which is a big department store, big box retailer. And they had to kind of shift on various occasions because at one point they went in one direction, consumers weren't happy, neither were staff, they had to go in another direction. And so the key finding we found in this study when we talked to consumers is that things are changing, so brands have to be ready to change as well. So protect staff, be consistent, and be ready to change. Finally, in the consumer index, we sent out some mystery shoppers across the USA, and we visited 6,000 locations, and that covered 45 major brands. We were trying to see, okay, we know what's important to consumers, but now what is actually happening out there? And so we put in a measure that just was a simple audit, sending somebody out into a brand to act as a regular customer, and we wanted to see how well those brands were complying with new health and safety requirements. So were there distancing markers? Was there signs? Were the staff wearing masks and gloves? All of those things that we knew were important to consumers, we wanted to make sure that it was happening out there in the marketplace. So it's a very big study. We wanted to see how consistent the experience was, not only across different stores of a brand, but also across industries. So did gas stations give a consistent experience versus restaurants or versus big box retail, etc. Finally, we wanted to see how customers were behaving and reacting to the new health and safety requirements. So we took a lot of photos while we were out there, thousands and thousands of photos, and we saw lots of good things. So what's important to consumers is making sure they can clean their hands and wipe down shopping carts. And sure enough, we saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of really good retailers like Trader Joe's, for example, that were complying in that way and providing consumers with a way to clean their hands or clean their shopping cart or clean the area around them. We saw social distancing markers. So, you know, going out to a store now, you see things with stickers all over the floor telling you where you can stand and where you can't stand. And that was very important as well. And then we saw social distancing signage as well to keep people safe and keep people reminded that they needed to behave that way. But we also saw some inconsistencies. So lots of locations, no signage. Again, if you're a brand and you've got a large network of locations and you've told your teams to put up signs, to behave in a certain way, there's no way of knowing unless you send somebody out to look for you. So we found a lot of examples of no signage. We also saw a lot of examples of inconsistency with things like masks. So one employee's wearing one employee's not. Sometimes we saw mixed signals at the checkout. So the customer is wearing gloves and a mask, but the staff isn't. There's a lot of like handing back and forth of payments and sometimes touching of items, which, you know, scares people, makes them feel not safe, makes them wonder if there's any kind of infection that they've just caught. So we saw really good things, we saw some not so good things. And the key takeaways for our study here was that compliance was very mixed. We did find that the high-end brands like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, which are really high-end grocery brands in the US, performed much better than anybody else. So they were very consistent, they were very thoughtful, their staff were very aware, they were very much on message, and consumers felt when they went in there that they were behaving in a way they wanted them to behave, so they felt good about it. That being said, many brands did not provide any way of sanitizing or washing hands, so that was critical. Some of that could be due to shortages of those supplies, but for the most part, those things were quite short and were quite poorly done across a lot of the brands. And the third finding we had is that a lot of brands are not really actively managing occupancy or doing visible cleaning. So that was important to consumers, that they saw when they went into a location that things were really happening and that the stores were being kept clean. But most brands in the study we did were not actively managing that occupancy or doing any visible cleaning. So finally, reopening requires a safe in-store experience, and we at Ipsos, of course, want to make sure that our client brands are operating safely. So we're measuring these things on behalf of our clients to make sure things are being done out there in physical locations. And not only that, but also pick up and delivery or calling a contact center. We want to make sure that consumers can be confident and create a consumer confident environment for our clients. So that's all I had to say this afternoon for you. Sardar, I'll hand back to you.
Yes, I'm back. Thank you for this presentation. I think there were very valuable hints for all of us in terms of providing a safe shopping experience. I'm sure that our participants all agree with me. There are some questions for you. Let's begin with this one. I think this is coming from one of our clients. We have been conducting these evaluations in-house, in source. What we might miss? That's the question.
Say the question again, sorry, Sardar.
We have been conducting these evaluations in-house. What we might miss?
Okay.
Are they missing something? Anything?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that you would want to do if you're conducting evaluations is, first of all, understand what is important to customers. And sometimes what's important to a brand may not be important to a customer and the other way around. So you have to be careful that you're measuring both corporate things that you want to do as well as what's important to consumers. So I think it's very important to, first of all, understand what a consumer wants and then respond to that accordingly and keep updating it, do it as often as you can, because I think that helps you continue to build that trust with your customers.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. Should health and safety index be used as a KPI, or is it just nice to know?
Yeah, I think both. I mean, if I was a retail brand or any kind of brand with physical locations, I think I'd want to know. One of our clients who's been doing a health and safety measurement program with us, they made the comment that the program would keep them out of the news, out of hospital, and out of court. So they were very, very keen to make sure they did this program because they could tell both their employees and their customers that they were behaving safely and they were measuring that safe behavior. So I think it's very important as a KPI moving forward. And we've found in the studies that we've done around the world that health and safety is now the most important factor. It's more important than just overall experience. If someone's friendly or if someone does all the traditional things of customer experience, now in the minds of consumers, the health and safety is become more important. So I think it's critical.
Okay, here's another question. Even if a brand does not provide masks, disinfectants, sprays, etc. to their personnel, should they cover these criteria?
That really depends on the country in some ways. Like some countries have not required masks. There are certain brands in certain countries that have required customers to wear them as well as staff. So I think it comes down to what's required legally in your particular country. But also sometimes you may want to go the extra mile and provide those things to employees and make sure they're wearing them. But if you're not required to do them and if you're not requiring employees to do them, you don't necessarily have to measure them. But then again, sometimes if you're doing a study that's measuring a lot of things, it doesn't hurt to check if those things are happening.
Okay, I think there are a few questions more. Do you have any benchmarks for health and safety index? If yes, for which markets do you have benchmarks so far?
Yeah, good question. Right now it's the US. We just went live in Canada. So we have the consumer information in Canada, but not yet the follow-on mystery shop information. So we know what consumers want, which is very similar to the USA actually, but we haven't yet measured what consumers are getting. The following weeks after that, there'll be the UK. There's a scattering of markets in Asia, Latin America. I believe Turkey will do this in maybe July or so. So we're gathering as much information as we can moving forward with many countries. What we're finding, I will say this, what we're finding anecdotally is consumers are all feeling the same way. They are worried about safety. We just don't know the exact drivers yet per country.
Okay, There's another interesting questions actually. Do you think that any different precautions, rather than most important ones, make brand more valuable in the long term?
Okay, that's a good question. There are some things which a slide I didn't put up. There were some key attributes that would lead to potentially more loyalty. Some things like contactless payments was important to people and would drive loyalty. Contactless hand washing and hand drying facilities and bathrooms was important. So there are some other attributes that came forward that would be like over and above the minimum, like those, which are really good to do. So I think brands, I can make those available to the listeners here, but there are some things that brands can do that make them kind of a premium above just the basic requirements. Yeah.
If we add COVID questions to our ongoing mystery shopping research, should we include them into yearly KPI measurement or not?
I think it's a good idea. We've got a lot of clients doing that. So a lot of our oil company clients, for example, as they're beginning to come out of lockdown, they're adding those questions into their standard mystery shopping programs. This environment's going to go on for a long time. So, you know, we're going to be in this mask wearing, hand cleaning, worried situation globally, I think for probably the next year, if not more. I mean, I don't know the future, obviously. But, you know, we know at least this year it's going to be a critical part of business success. So I would say yes, adding those things in as a long-term KPI would be very important and very valuable.
Okay, thank you, Craig, for your participation. So here in Turkey as well, of course, in person. So have a good day. I know that's very early in the US, so that's very special for us actually. You just woke up in that time in our country, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Evet, bir Araştırmada Yenilikler Konferansımızın sonuna doğru yaklaşıyoruz. Burada artık yani son birkaç tane söz söyleyeceğim ve konferansımızı kapatacağız. Umarım bugün hepimiz hem profesyonel hem de özel yaşamlarımızda kullanabileceğimiz bilgilerle ayrılıyoruzdur. Yani kendi adıma objektif bir şekilde söyleyebilirim ki bu konuşmalardan gerçekten ciddi şekilde faydalandım. Öngörebilmek için hepimizin yeni bilgiye sahip olmamız gerekiyor demiştim. Bugün de bence yeni bilginin örneklerine tanık olduk. Özellikle tabii çok özel bir dönem yaşıyoruz. Yani bu COVID-19 salgını üzerine zaten çok konuşuyoruz ve bundan sonra çok uzun zaman çok da fazla konuşmaya devam edeceğiz. Sosyal mesafe kavramı yani ülkeler, kültürler arasında nüanslar olmakla birlikte salgın sonrasında da çok büyük ihtimalle hayatınızda bir süre daha kalıcı olmaya devam edecek. Mutlaka bir gevşeme olacaktır ama kalıcı etkilerini de görürsek şaşırmamamız lazım. Dediğim gibi zaten hani çok konuşulan şeyler, yani özellikle yeme içme, eğlence, turizm, işte konserler, tiyatrolar gibi alanlarda. Bunun yanı sıra hatta hani toplu taşımada, okullarda, alışveriş merkezlerinde, pazar yerlerinde, yani insanların toplu olarak bulunduğu birçok yerde sosyal mesafeyi dikkate alarak yeniden yapılanmak zorundayız. Bizim COVID'e hazır şekilde yaşamaya alışmamız gerekiyor bir tedavi bulunana kadar. Bu bir tür yeni bir toplumsal sözleşme olarak nitelendirilebilir. Biz birbirimize emanetiz. Birbirimize karşı sorumluluklarımızın daha bir farkında olarak yapacağımız, kısmen bazen yazılı, kısmen yazılı olmayan bir sözleşmeden bahsediyorum. Örneğin eskiden hafif öksüren biri işe gitmeye devam ettiğinde bu bir fedakarlık gösterisi olarak algılanabilirdi. Şimdi ise buna bir benzer bir davranışı gördüğümüzde bambaşka bir reaksiyon verme ihtimalimiz çok yüksek. Şu anda bile bizim ilk örnekleri gördüğümüz işte bu temas takip sistemleri, self-test kitleri, iş yerlerinde teşhisler, işte toplumdaki bulaşıcılık seviyesini anlamaya yönelik Bugün de konusu geçti. İşte bu istatistiksel temsil edici büyük örneklemler üzerinden rastgele testler belki de bundan sonra hayatımızın doğal parçası olarak olacak. Yani nasıl enflasyon oranını takip ediyorsak Covid'e çare bulunana kadar da bulaşıcılık oranını takip edeceğiz belki de. Yani biz insanoğlunun çok muktedir olduğunu düşündük yıllar boyunca. Bundan hiçbir şüphemiz yoktu. Ama bugün fark ettik ki aslında o kadar da ileride değiliz. Yani virüs karşısında 100 yıl önce alınan önlemlerin benzerlerini alıyoruz. Dolayısıyla da işte küresel ısınma gibi özellikle tüm gezegeni tehdit eden büyük çevre risklerine karşı bundan sonra daha farklı bakılması söz konusu olabilir. Bununla ilgili kesin konuşamıyorum çünkü bence kesinlikle daha farklı bakılmalı ama insanoğlu bir yandan da unutma yeteneği olan bir varlık. Dolayısıyla da hani bir süre geçtikten sonra bunların bir kısmını unutma ihtimalimiz de var. Bu yani işte küresel salgın, iklim değişikliği gibi bunların arasında bu büyük felaket ihtimallerinin arasında çok ürkütücü benzerlikler var. Her ikisi de insanlığın deneyim sahibi olmadığı, ne yapacağını ancak deneme yanılma yoluyla bulmak zorunda kaldığı muazzam tehditler. Ve tabii ekonomi üzerinde de yıkıcı etkileri var. Ve ekonomiye dair paradigma değişikliklerini aslında bir anlamda dayatıyor. Özellikle iklim değişikliğine mesela daha farklı bakmak gerekiyor ama çok basit bir konu da değil bir taraftan. Yani işin ekonomik boyutuyla değerlendirdiğimizde. Yani kullanılan yakıt türlerinden işte gaz salınımlarına, üretim sistemlerinin dönüştürülmesine kadar birçok uluslararası sözleşmeyi yeniden masaya yatıracak bir konu ki o sözleşmeler masaya geldiğinde politikacıların nasıl davrandıklarını zaten yıllar içinde birçok kez gördük. Yaşam özellikle büyük şehirlerde beyaz yakalıların sorumluluklarını başkalarına ihale etmeleriyle yürüyor. İşte beyaz yakalıların çoğunun evini başkaları temizliyor, çocuklarına başkaları bakıyor. Yemeklerini internetten sipariş ediyorlar vesaire. Yani birçoğumuzun elinden basit, yani ben de dahil, basit tamirat işleri bile gelemiyor yani. Bu konularda becerimizi geliştirmiş değiliz. Şu dönemde, evde kaldığımız dönemde Türkiye'de ekmek yapımı, evlerde ekmek yapımı 2 katından fazla arttı. İnsanlar bu ürünlerini böyle sosyal medyada gururla paylaşıyorlar. Ancak unu hala köşe başındaki marketten veya elektronik ticaretten kolayca alabildiğimizi unutuyoruz. Yani unu biri üretiyor ve o marketlere kadar getiriyor. Bu dağıtım, bu üretim durduğundaysa evde de ekmek yapamayacağız. Dolayısıyla birbirimize ne kadar muhtaç olduğumuzun resmi önümüze serildi. Sadece sağlık çalışanlarının değil, süpermarket çalışanlarının, kargo şirketi çalışanlarının, temizlik işçilerinin rollerini fark ettik. İyimser denilebilir ama yani varsın densin her bir bireyin bir diğeri üzerinde ne kadar etkisi olduğunun daha fazla fark edildiği bir dönemden geçtiğimize inanıyorum. Belki naif gelebilir ama ben buna inanıyorum. Virüse karşı evde kalmak veya birbirimizle mesafemizi korumaktaki mantık bile aslında sadece kendimizi değil, karşımızdaki de korumayı içeriyor. Dolayısıyla yani çok büyük ortak bir mücadele var. İnsanlar hep birlikte mücadeleyi veriyorlar ve bu salgınla savaştan da insanlığın galip çıkacağına inanıyorum. Zamanlamasını bilmiyorum ama eninde sonunda mutlaka kazanan taraf her zaman olduğu gibi insan olacak. Bizim için bence kritik olan şu, yani çok emin değilim bundan ama umut ediyorum ki öyle olsun. Tüm bu süreçten kendi adımıza iyi bir şeyler öğrenerek ve iyiye doğru dönüşerek çıkalım. Bugün hep birlikte çok iyi bir şey yaptık. Hep birlikte bu konferansa katılırken yaptığımız bağışlarla bütün Çocuklar Bizim Derneği aracılığıyla bu savaşta cephenin en ön hattında yer alan sağlık çalışanlarının çocukları için elimizden geldiğince bir şeyler üretmeye çalıştık. İşte bu da aslında bu iyiye doğru dönüşmenin bence çok güzel bir örneği oldu. Herkese bir kez daha konferansımıza katıldığı için çok teşekkür ediyorum ve sevgilerimi iletiyorum. Kendinize iyi bakın. İyi günler.